What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Perfectly Blended Podcast, Season 4, Episode 6. Today's episode is Part 4 of the 12 Steps of a Blended Marriage. That's coming up
right now.
Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
What is up? What is up? What's up, Mark's Remarks? What's happening? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final chapter. Chapter 4. No, it's, let's see here.
It's the final countdown.
It's episode number 4 of the 4 parts. Part 4 of the 4 parts of part 4. Yes. So there's 4 parts. We did this month over the 12 steps of blended marriage. And so for each episode, we did 3 of the steps that apply to your blended marriage. And so now you can go back and listen to the last 3 from this month if you want to hear the complete set of what we talk about on this. So 12 steps, right? So a little bit of a recap. So the 12 steps that we had talked about is Christy and I have 12 years of sobriety. Christy has 10, and we both have been through a 12-step recovery program. We help lead one at our church right now called Celebrate Recovery. And as we reflect on our marriage, our own personal lives, our personal growth, our spiritual growth, everything, it all really relates back to how much we've applied these 12 steps to our personal lives and to our marriage. And we found so much success. We continue to find success because of these things. So we thought that it would be awesome to share this month. Because I think, what was it?
September 16th.
September 16th. She knew exactly where I was going, people. September 16th of this month was
National Step Family Day.
Yeah, National Step Family Day. So we thought this would be a great month to talk about this.
Yeah.
So, should we tell everybody about my sister's wedding this weekend? That was fun.
No.
She's like, no. Yeah, so I had an opportunity to marry my sister this weekend. And that's actually funny because... that was something that Christy said when we went to go pick up my suit, and I used it as a joke. And she's like, I can't believe you said that.
At the wedding.
She's like, my husband is marrying his sister. I'm like, well, technically we're not from Arkansas, so that doesn't really work. And then I was like, at the wedding, I said that. Everybody laughed. And then I was like, well, if you're from Arkansas, you probably didn't get the joke, which I thought was funny too.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry if you're from Arkansas. What's up, Stacy? I finally got my internet working. The dial-up.
So funny.
The dial-up. Anyway, so
and I've said that more than once. Like, oh yeah, Josh is marrying his sister, and people are like, I'm like, that's not what I mean.
Yeah, no, I was
He's
able
performing the ceremony.
Yeah, I got to perform the ceremony, which actually I like doing that. I've done a few of them this year. I think I've done 3 of them, and so it's been that's enjoyable. It's actually enjoyed doing that. So it's great to be part of somebody else's journey. So congratulations to my sister and her new husband on their
blended family.
And their blended family, which is super cool because that was the first marriage I was able to conduct where they were a blended family. Haha, that is funny. You say that. Yeah, it is funny. It's funny. It was funny. And I thought it would be super funny that I'd say it during the wedding, which made it really funny.
Okay.
You want to do a quick recap?
Yes.
Okay. Christy's going to recap it for you people. Like
let's move on.
machines.
Okay, let's do the recap. So the first Tuesday that we did it at the beginning of the month, it is steps 1, 2, and 3 is admit, believe, and decide. And then 2 weeks ago, we did steps 4, 5, and 6 is responsibility, transparency, and submit. And then last week we did steps 7, 8, and 9, which is humility, willingness, and apologize.
Yeah, so this
week we're doing 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah, we're moving on to 10, 11, and 12. So let's just kick it right off.
We're moving on up
to number 12. You don't want me to sing, so that'd be bad. Okay, so slide number 1, step 10 is continued growth. Continued growth. You want to read it, baby?
Yeah.
Okay.
So step 10 is we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So if you think in the Bible verse that it goes along with it. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. 1 Corinthians 10:12. And it's very important, like Josh and I would tell anyone going through recovery or working the 12 steps too, that you don't skip steps. So if this is the first one that you've listened to this week and it's step 10 and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to start taking a personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. You should never start at step 10. You should always go back and you always start at step 1, because then that's a healthy way to work through the steps. So I would very encourage you to start at the beginning and listen to the first steps before this, 1 through 9.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because the thing is that I always tell people at our recovery program is that when we try to skip steps, we end up falling all the way back to the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
And the steps are really designed just like they are in the Bible, because this is based off of the 8 Beatitudes, is that, they're designed to be done in succession and always being done, right? Consistently being done. So, Christy says step 10 is growth, and continued growth. So how do we look at that in our own personal blended marriage? How do we look at that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we're not continuing trying to grow each and every day, then we stop finding value in working hard towards our relationship. We don't see the value in working hard and continuing on and on and on, even when we have seasons where things are tough. I mean, we've heard people say in the past, we've had, good years and bad years, not just good months or good days and bad days. Sometimes you have a whole year where things are just not going well. And if you're not continuously working on your personal growth, if you're not each day trying to work on being better and taking personal responsibility, doing the personal inventory things, and really working on growing personally, it's going to make those seasons that much harder. And it's never going to allow you to have the next good season come along, because you're not concerning yourself with growing and continuously growing in your own walk.
Correct. And I was just thinking, like, Josh and I each, you need to find what works for you in your own personal growth. Like, I like getting up in the morning and I like reading the Bible, like actual tangible Bible, like reading a devotional, reading a book. I'm always trying to be reading a leadership book or some type of self-growth book. Yeah. Josh found that he likes listening to audible books or motivational things. So every single morning, though, we didn't ever talk about this. That's just what we do in the morning. Josh gets up, I'm not usually here, I'm usually at work, but whatever he does in the morning, gets ready, gets in the shower, all this stuff, he's listening to his things that he does to make him accountable, to have personal growth and be 1% better every day. So today I'm going to be 1% better. And then me, I get up, I start doing what I do that helps Christy feel like I'm making personal growth, and I want to make sure that I'm increasing my skill set. And what do you measure that by? That's my question to people. Like, what do you measure your growth by? Like, I measure my growth. I'm a very impatient person. So I measure my growth is how much more I've grown, that I can hold my cool and not even internally. I don't externally get like rah anymore like I used to, but that doesn't mean internally I'm not that way. So how can I, in a situation, not be thinking in my head like this person is an idiot or this person's a moron or I wish they would shut up, so I can just negative thought processes in my head, and actually put myself, listen to that person, have an empathetic more mindset towards them, and then say, okay, how can I put myself in this person's shoes to actually listen to understand rather than respond, and come out to where both of us at least feel heard by the end of the conversation. Not just with Josh, with anyone, but this is something that I would measure my growth in for our marriage, because I am very impatient. I am very abrupt sometimes. And I want to make sure that I'm being more patient with him, especially after I've been at work all day and I feel like my patience has been spent, on everybody else. And I want to make sure that I ask him how his day was and actually listen. Him and I were just talking about this earlier. I asked him like what he was working on today. And then I needed to put my phone down though, when he's ready to tell me about it, and not sit on my phone and be like, while I'm doing it. I need to pay attention to him. So that's how I measure my growth when it comes to our marriage.
Yeah, and I know there's a famous quote, and I don't know it precisely, but it means what gets measured gets improved. And I love how you said that, babe, where it's like, I have to know if I did more today, did it help me improve from yesterday? Like, did any of this stuff, this growing, did it work? And not all stuff works, right? Not all of it's going to work. It's like throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks, So like me, like Christy said, I like to listen to things. Well, I didn't know that for a long time. I tried to grind through reading, and I would get so frustrated with myself because why don't I enjoy this? Why don't I like this? I want to do this. I really want to. Why is it not working? And I had to finally figure out, like, when I started listening to something, and I'm like, man, I listened to this entire book. Like, I listened to the whole thing, and I enjoyed it, and I paid attention the whole time, and I was able to still get up because, I asked Christy, I am a restless person. Like, I constantly have to be moving and doing things, which makes it really hard for somebody that wants to sit down and read. So understanding your growth personally and knowing that your own personal growth matters and figuring it out, finding a solution to that, and then knowing how to measure it and know that it's working is super, super, super important. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I didn't even have that down to talk about, but that is a major, major factor that makes a difference because we're not going to be interested in growing. Who wants to continuously do things to grow all the time? Well, you do once you start seeing the results of it, when you're measuring it and you're seeing results, you start getting excited about the things that are working inside of you. And to be honest with you, you have to be very careful that you don't get cynical. You don't get cynical against other people and things that are around you. You have to be very humble around those things too. But knowing that the step 10 is about continued growth, growing, and never stop growing. Because, the Bible tells us that if we're not moving forward towards God, we're moving away from God. And we have to remember that as a human, even in any parts of our lives, when we're not working on our marriage, if we're not working on our marriage is slipping away from us. And we have to look at that as we continue to grow, as we work through these steps.
Yeah, because it was actually shocking because we have to remind ourselves, him and I didn't always read books or be listening to motivational videos and all of like we do now.
No.
And once you start in that and it's just part of your daily life, your daily routine, all this stuff, it's shocking to you because you just assume everybody's doing it. Like we are so like caught up in our own little bubble as humans.
True.
Like we start growing, we start doing these certain things in our life. We just assume everybody else is doing those things too. And they aren't. A lot of people aren't. So it's like, I know so many people that, they say quotes or they post quotes on their Facebook pages, but it's like, you don't apply any of that to yourself. And you're usually posting it because you're wanting someone else to see it. Yeah. Not because you want to work on it or because you're having more thumbs and less fingers. It's oh yeah, I do that. But do you really do that? And those are questions that I ask myself, like how much do you self-reflect when you see a quote on Facebook and ask yourself, are those things I actually do? Do I actually do that? Do I actually work on it? How, if I don't, what can I do to do it? And you have to be doing that all the time in your marriage. You can't just constantly be looking at everything else they need to work on because that is actually not taking any responsibility for anything that you're doing in the relationship. True. And I want to allow him to speak into me and say, hey, you're really not paying attention to me today. Or, hey, your impatience is on another level today, and then me be like, no, you're right. I'm sorry. That should be my first response. Not like, oh, of course, everything's my fault. Everything's my fault. Josh, I'm always impatient. It's my fault. No, it's you are right. Is what you're saying correct? Yes. Yeah. So I want to make sure that I improve upon that.
And I think to get to a position like that, though, is continuous personal growth. You can't be receptive to the people that love you the most. You can't be receptive because you automatically take offense to that.
A teachable spirit.
Yes, that's well put. A teachable spirit. I think that's what's so important about a healthy marriage is that you have to make it safe. And not that I'm constantly trying to tell Christy how to fix herself. So if I tell Christy, if I do suggest to Christy, because she did when we were talking, she had her phone in her hand and then she put her phone down and I told her, I appreciate that. She could have taken that as me being smart to her and thinking that I'm taking a jab at her, but she doesn't take that because she knows what I'm telling her is heartfelt from me. It's not intended to be mean. It was intended to say, hey, I actually do appreciate you doing that because it means something to me because I know you want to pay attention to me right now. And so I think, when we work through when we work through the steps and we get to personal growth, continued growth, just nothing to fix, right? Oh, Stacey.
Oh, Stacey loves me just how I am.
Stacey, I'm blocking Stacey. Hang on a second. But I think it's important, that we are receptive also, and we get that because of our continued growth.
Yeah.
Which is step 10. Okay.
And continued growth, it's tiring when you think about it because you never stop.
It's continuing.
Until you die.
Forever. Mm-hmm. Just like Sandlot. Okay. Number two. Step 11 is prayer.
Yes. So step 11 is we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. And the Bible verse for that is let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Colossians 3:16. So I really like this one because I think the power of prayer is grossly underestimated in most
Amen.
people's lives, because a lot of times, especially when you're trying to pray continuously throughout the day, or like you're in the habit of praying in the morning time, you are just get into a just, what am I trying to say? Like a boxed prayer that you're praying to God every single day, instead of actually praying to him about specific things for that day. Like, be with me, try to make my path straight for me, Lord, please, before I go into it. If not, please give me the patience to be there. Pray for my husband, pray for my kids' spouses one day that they're going to be meeting, and praying for them to keep them safe throughout the day. Pray for specific friends if they're going through things, but actually pray, but also make me humble, give me wisdom, break me apart to, uproot prideful things that are in my life, and, prune me, continue to prune me, and continue to make me grateful for those things. And some days I'm going to be extremely grateful. And as soon as I'm getting pruned, I'm like, oh, you're right, God, I know that was you. And then other days I'm going to be like, why today do you need to prune me? You already know I'm having a hard day. And so and he already knows you're going to be like that, but you have to be open to the correction. And especially in marriage, you live with a person 24 hours, well, not 24 hours a day, but you are with them 7 days a week. You see them usually some. So it's hard to make a good, strong marriage without prayer, because you can't be having self-reflection and growth, because God softens your heart and the Holy Spirit convicts you of things. And the Holy Spirit also, like, if you, let's say today, I didn't have anything to work on. It was Josh, but he softens my words to be able to say it to Josh in a loving way and not in a prideful way, or to be trying to hurt him, to try to make him feel less than. In prayer also, since we're both Christians, we're both saved, I pray the Holy Spirit then also is going to soften his heart to be more receptive to his wife's feedback in that situation. Yeah. Is it always 100% perfect? No, but that's why you have to pray all the time, consistently, every day, and be having self-growth every day. It's just these 12 steps are so miraculous.
They're powerful
in someone's life that you can't help but to apply it to everything, because it's amazing. The difference.
Yeah, so I was raised as a believer in Jesus, and if you've watched the show enough, you know that I feel there's a major difference between a believer and a follower. Mm-hmm. And being a believer, I always believed that there was a God, and I did 2 prayers a day, typically one time at dinner and then one time at bed, and each of those were scripted prayers. Now today, could I tell you exactly what those prayers mean? I could tell you nothing that they mean. I could probably recite it right now and probably do it out of just pure memory. But this is exactly the point Christy was trying to make, is we need to have purpose with our prayer. What is our purpose with our prayer? How are we intentional with our prayer life? Are we talking to God because it's something we're supposed to do? Or are we talking to God because it's something that comes from inside of our heart, that it's something that we desire to do? And I believe there's a huge difference in that. And our marriage, your marriage, our lives in general need prayer. We need to be consulting Jesus on all levels, and that's with reading his word and also talking to him through prayer. And so I can't tell you enough. Like, my prayer life comes and it goes at different levels of strength, but I believe that my prayer life in the last 5 years of my life has been 1,000 times better than it ever has. I'm very intentional with the way that I pray, because I truly care about the things that I'm praying about. And my wife is one of those things that I always pray for, not pray about. My wife corrected me years ago when I said that. I prayed about you yesterday. And she's like, prayed about me? You mean pray for me? And yes, pray for you. Yes, I want to pray and pray for your spouse, not for your spouse to do what you say, right? I mean, that's a fun one to pray. That's not how it works, right? Mm-hmm. We need to pray for God, to come into our marriages, to make my wife feel the confident woman that she should feel, right? That I want God to help her see her the way that I see her, right? And that helps our marriage overall if we're praying for our spouse. And something that Christy and I need to get better at doing is we need to pray with our spouse. That's something that we've talked about.
We are not good at that.
And we're not good at it. Do we do it every once in a while? Yes. But do we do it enough? No. We should be doing it daily. We really need to. And because it's important, like these are the things that are important. So don't ever think that you've ever arrived in your prayer life. This is something that we continuously work hard on, but trust that the prayer, is where it's at. It's like you said, it's very undervalued. We don't value prayer life enough.
No, we don't. And that's because it's hard. I was actually just thinking about this the other day while I was praying is, the reason why we undervalue it is because we live in a now society. Like, a lot of preachers and pastors talk about this, but you want food, you drive up to the window, and you get food. Now there's like click lists or grocery shop. There's Amazon. There's internet dating. There's anything that you could want in your life, from food to relationships to everything. It's instant. Yeah. So we want instant gratification. Our phones now, if you would have said, when we were growing up and we're walking around our house with the huge long phone line trailing us everywhere, one day you're going to be able, one day you're going to be able to carry a phone around with you wherever you go. You're going to sleep with it next to your bed. You're going to wake up and check it very first thing in the morning,
be on the toilet
like a newspaper. And your math teacher was wrong. You're always going to have a calculator on you. Like, you wouldn't believe that was correct.
Yeah.
And so it's like we pray and we put those expectations on God now. Like, okay, everything else in the world is instant. We pray for something, God. Okay, when my husband gets up in the morning, I'm like expecting him to like madly doubt all over me today and give me everything that I've always wanted. Fan me,
and it usually
feed
happens.
me grapes. It does.
No, it doesn't.
But it's not right, because God is more interested in changing you and your patience level and your perception of the world, and to be more kind and to be more caring to your spouse and everyone else, and to make you a better person, not to change your circumstances or to give you more money or to anything else to make your life better. It is to change you as a person. And that's why it says praying for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And the reason why we need the power to carry that out is because as soon as we start really trying to align with His will for our life, and we really start, okay, God has called me right now for the season that I'm in, for you guys that have young children, to be a stay-at-home mom and be the mom of excellence every single day. Those kids are going to test your patience, and Satan's going to definitely make sure that you try to tell yourself you yell at your kids too much, or you don't teach them enough, or you're not teaching them their colors fast enough.
Especially blended families.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. And so it's like your call by God can change depending on what season you're in, because wherever you're in right now, God has called you to do it with excellence. So me getting up every morning and going to this job that I have right now, I need to be doing that every day with excellence. I need to be trying to be the best communicator I can be, teaching people how to be better communicators, and also treat our employees better. And then I need to come home and be an excellent wife to my husband. And I don't want to speak for you. I'm sorry. I was about to, but
it's her will, not mine.
We both need to get better at that, though. Like, we come home and we do have, it's like a dance in our house. We just kind of have a routine. Like, I come home, I set my stuff down from work. He's in the kitchen, he's making dinner. We kind of are just chit-chatting a little bit. And then we kind of, depending on what night of the week it is, we change and we do our podcast or we do this. But we're really not like intentional with how, like, hey, let's one day a week tell each other 3 things that I appreciate about Josh every single week that he does for us. And if he didn't do it, it would be massively noticed, but it goes unnoticed of me saying something on a daily basis. Those things are important, so.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Anyway, I kind of went on a tangent there.
No, that's a good tangent. I think that's the power in prayer. We have to be intentional with our prayer life. We have to understand that it's not about our will, it's His will. How can all of this apply to blended families? Well, I don't know if you can understand the theme so far. We're getting ready to move on to the 12th, but if you can't understand the theme, that your blended families, the reason why they can find success is because you're focusing on the things God's telling you to focus on, which is all of these steps on what is your responsibility. How can you impact? How can you influence? And what areas of you can you change? Not how can I tell my ex-wife, how to live her life so it's better for my kids? Doesn't work. How can I tell Christy how to raise her children? Doesn't work. Right? How can I tell Christy to be a better mom, a better parent, a better wife? Doesn't work. None of those things work. The only thing that's going to work is if Josh becomes a better human being, a better father, a better husband, right? Those are the only ways that everything else is going to be impacted and influenced in a positive way, which means I have zero control of everything out around me. The only thing I have control is over myself. And so understand what these 12 steps are trying to do and why this ties into blended marriages, why it does, because it teaches you the exact things you need to do to find real success.
Yeah. And I mean, this is kind of it's not about prayer at all, but it's important to tell your spouse, like if Josh didn't compliment me, okay, I don't like him going one day without complimenting me at least once. Okay. And those of you out there may think that's prima donna, but that's why God designed him for me, because he doesn't get upset about that. He agrees with it.
And she's beautiful. So.
So on the days that he doesn't compliment me, I don't look at him and be like, you didn't compliment me at all today. And it makes me so mad. Now, has there been days that I have said that to him? Yes. But it goes better when he does on a weekend and he compliments me 2 or 3 times throughout the day. And then we go to lay down at bed at nighttime and I look at him and I'm like, I really appreciate today that I could really tell that you made an effort. And you told me like 3 or 4 times today that I really looked beautiful, or you really appreciated how intelligent I was, or how much that you love me being your wife. And I want you to know that doesn't go unnoticed. It means a lot to me when you say that. That is going to get him to try to compliment me more tomorrow than me saying, today, I know you did it yesterday, but today you didn't do it one time. And that is just absolutely unacceptable. Do you think he's going to want to compliment me tomorrow? No. He's going to be like, okay, you're pretty. It's true.
And that's true. And that's happened. I mean, that happens with us sometimes. I mean, It's true. But we learn and we adjust. And it's the same thing for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing as a guy. Like, I need an attaboy. Like Christy knows I need attaboys. I need those things. I need for her to tell me every single day that the food that I made her tastes good. I need her to tell me that. Even though if I've made the same thing 74,000 times, she understands. But you get it though.
I do.
You get it, right?
Every day I barely get a bite in my mouth. Like it's the very first bite. I'm like, oh, and he's like, is it good? I'm like,
but what I don't do, I don't wait for her to tell me.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
I will ask. I will request because I know that's something that I need, and my wife loves me, and she gives it to me, right? So I also know with her, some days she's like, I just need you to tell me you love me today. And okay, I got it. I wasn't fulfilling it. I know what you're telling me, and you're not being a brat about it. I just know that cup of yours right now is a bigger cup today, and it needs more filled in it. And I get it.
My cup size changes from day to day.
It does. Usually gets bigger. Usually needs
but prayer helps us be more receptive to those things.
And it gives me more, and gives us more to give, right? The more that we pray, the more that we dive in to say, God, give me the strength, give me the courage. Christy was just saying before we got on this show, she's like, oh, you seem like you're pretty good today. I said, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good today. She goes, I don't know if you know this. You're probably going to say you do know it. Okay? Because that's what she says to me. You probably already going to say you do.
He usually does.
Right. But I didn't.
He didn't, which is a shocker.
Okay, all right, take it easy. Club me like a baby seal. So she says to me, she's like, well, like a month before your birthday every year, since you've turned 40, you seem like you get kind of like depressed. And I says,
I did not say that.
Well,
see, and this is how he listens.
Okay.
So this is real raw footage right here, okay?
So, okay, you use the phrase that you use because it means depressed to me. It means the same to me, though.
It doesn't.
It does to me.
So about a month before his birthday every year so he was 39 and he's getting ready to turn 40 and now this year he turned 46. So it's been a lot of years now, about a month.
Whoa.
About a month before his birthday, he just starts acting different. Yeah. He just starts acting like, I don't know, he's not as patient as he normally is with everybody. He's more cynical and critical. But it's not that he's more depressed. He is some of that too, but he's just completely like Heckle Josh. Is that Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hyde?
Yeah.
Which one's the bad one? Mr. Hyde?
No.
Dr. Heckle? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Hyde.
He's the bad one.
Hyde's the bad one.
So he just starts acting like, I don't know, different. Just different. His patience is really what stands out to me. Like his patience level to never talk to anyone, let alone me, and to make them feel stupid. Like even if you ask him a question or say something to him or make a comment to him, he always just takes it with a grain of salt, takes it for face value, will explain it to you and never has a tone. You know, it's like a superpower that he has. But a month before his birthday, until about now, about a month after, which is what I told Casey, my nail lady, it's about a month after almost. So there's like a 2-month span where that he's different. He just isn't that same person. And I'm like, he's starting to get back now. He's starting to come back around.
So 2 months a year, okay.
He didn't notice. He actually said,
I'm not good.
I don't notice.
No, I know that there's something going on because she's constantly telling me, like, what's wrong with you? What's going on with you? But I don't really realize it, right? And I think that's what this is really supposed to be about, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into 12 in just a second, but I really want to make a point to this.
Yeah, we beat this a dead horse.
We have, because it's important.
Yeah.
Because prayer is important. So being open and receptive of what our spouses are saying, we have to find that strength from Christ, and we have to do that in prayer. So when Christy's telling me this, I don't get offended or mad. I don't none of that.
I'm also not a nagger though. So if you women are out there or naggers, you need to have
don't
the opposite.
Be a nag.
Well, you need to have the opposite effect. You need to pray for God to help you keep your mouth shut. Because sometimes, well, honestly, like some women are just like nag all the time. Yeah. So yours needs to be the opposite. Like help me not have to pick at my husband for every little thing. Sorry.
And I've learned with Christy that I can't just come to her like she comes to me a lot of the times, right? I have to slow roll, drive her down a road for a while. Like, yes, it takes 3 or 4 days to unfold something. Like, that's how it is with her, because if I come right at her and just tell her like my opinion of something, like full on rejection, right? It's just fully getting thrown right back at me. And I've learned that over the time.
I'm so appreciative of him. I am so.
It does. She's a very, 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 very type A, which I am too, but she's a very strong type A woman. And she's a leader, and she's all of these things, right?
And we're more emotional.
Yes. On top of all of that, she's still a female. So you get all the emotions and stuff that wrap around that. So I've understood that, though, and I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. Sometimes I get frustrated, and I have to just come right out with it. And I'm like, okay, that was bad. It just never works out well. Definitely not for me. So my point is pray for the patience as a man. Pray for patience to deal with your wife appropriately, because they are not just as receptive on certain things as us men are. We're much more easygoing. But then again, men are very sensitive and can be big babies about stuff too, right? I never do anything right. Did I ever say that ever? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like 1,000 times. Okay.
Well,
and that's true. So I'm saying be in prayer though, and ask to be softened up on some of this stuff, because you got to have it.
So I sent him a meme the other day, and it's the guy. I've never watched the show, but it's the guy from The Office. And what's his name? Do you remember? Do you know his? Well, anyway, we don't watch The Office. So he's sitting there, and he just has his face like, But the things above it say 30 minutes into an argument with someone, and I realized I probably misunderstood something, right? And I actually sent it to him, because how many times in our relationship after 11 years have I came back to you, and it's usually never been within the same day.
No, I don't think it's ever been in the same day. Sometimes not in the same calendar year.
That's true. So I came back to him and been like, yeah, I understood what you were trying to tell me now. I completely wasn't listening to you, and like, you were right, and I get it. I get it now. So I'm sorry, but I understand now. Thanks for taking 2 hours to try to explain it to me. And I just was like, nah.
Well, to her defense though, is in the beginning of our relationship, I don't know, we've really taken this one to the left turn, but in the beginning of our relationship,
it's a lot of prayer, people.
Very salesy. Okay. I'm very salesy. I want to explain everything, and for her to understand and see it from my point of view, which ultimately is just me trying to get her to see it my way. Right. And it was just my sales way. So she was very used to that. So it's like 2 hours in discussion. All you're trying to do is convince me of what you're trying to say. And there's no real listening going on. So we've had to learn that over the years, right? We've had to figure it out. We've had to, like, a lot of bathroom talks to figure these things out. Okay. So let's move on. All right. To the final one. Dun, dun, dun. Is step 12 is
serve.
Give it all away.
Yeah. So, step 12 is having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all of our affairs. So the Bible verse is, brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore them gently, but watch yourself or you also may be tempted. Galatians 6:1. So in a blended marriage, serving is a huge in any marriage, but in a blended marriage, it's very vital because you do need to be a servant for your spouse and for your kids and for your stepkids. You need to figure out how to be a servant to all of them, but primarily God and your spouse. So I think it's important that a lot of people skip over this in the step is having had a spiritual experience as the result of these steps. So you can't just, say, oh, I prayed today and I've had this spiritual experience and now I know how to handle my life. Prayer, like we saw it through prayer and meditation, is step 11. So if you haven't done all 10 other steps before you actually go to God in prayer, these are very, very smart and these are from God. That's why, because he knows better than us. So a lot of times if Christians in general jump to prayer. They think prayer fixes everything, right? So it's like, oh, you just need to pray. You just need to pray. You just need to pray. If you're not open to prayer, if you haven't worked steps 1 through 10 and gotten through your denial and accepted the fact that God is your Lord and Savior, and you need to be humble and you have to submit yourself to him and you need to be open to his correction, and that you can't fix anybody else, including your spouse. You only can fix yourself. And then you start praying and God starts changing your heart. That's when you've had a spiritual experience that God has changed you from the inside out. And then you're ready to go out and try to help other people see the error of their ways in a loving way by your example, your friendship, your relationships with them. But you're not here to fix your spouse. So I think it's very important that that like you have to have self-growth so you can be the best spouse you can for that person. Not to say, oh, look how good I am as a wife. You need to follow my example because you suck as a husband. Like that's just not the way it works. You need to go back to step 1.
Yeah, I want to say something real quick because I don't want to get an email or a private message because Christy said, don't pray before 11. Don't be sensitive about this stuff, okay? I understand what's trying to be said here, okay? She's making a very, very, very important point about these steps. Pray always, but if you're praying for the wrong reasons and you're praying for the wrong way to what God's trying to do with your heart, then you're missing the point of what we're trying to say here. Okay, so there's a purpose in what she said. Don't read into it deeper than what it is. Okay.
Well, and a lot of times it is biblical. If you're living in sin, God won't hear your prayers, and that is biblical. You can go ask our pastor.
Get out of your sin.
You have to get out of your sin, and the only prayer that God is going to hear from you is repentance before he hears anything else. Yeah. So that is important to say.
It is important. Number 12, is serve, right? And I think this could be used in a multitude of ways. Christy made the first point that I completely 1,000% agree with. We need to learn how to, serve our family, right? Stepkids, kids, our extended families. How do we serve them appropriately? In what ways do we do that? The thing that always comes to my mind when I think of my family, and it's just something that works for me, when I think of like serving them, I always think of Jesus washing feet. I always think of that. How can I wash the feet of my family, of my friends, of the people I love? How can I care for them in a way that doesn't repay me? Not that I'm not going to be repaid, but that's not the point of serving and loving and caring unconditionally for our families. Like, I want to love Christy more than she loves me. And I think I do, which is good. So
here he is selling his stuff again.
My point being,
put your boots on, people.
It's getting deep in here. My point is that when we serve, we need to make sure that we're looking outside of ourselves. That's why these 12 steps make such good sense. We spend the first 11 building up to be something great that God's created, to then 12 to then turn around and give it to the people we care about around us. Right? Now, after our cup is full, after God has our cup completely full, now we're pouring into others, including our spouses, our marriage, our kids, our stepkids, and all of our extended family and friends. And I think that if you get this far and you don't understand the whole point of giving back, you're really not going to understand the point of what is going on in these 12 steps.
I have a funny story.
Here we go.
Really quick before I forget though, I always view it like Josh is saying, like once your cup is full, your cup never stays full. So I envision it as you're like this, and then you can go like this to pour into other people, but you always have to be receiving from God. You constantly having to be praying. You constantly be having to have humility and growth with God. He's continuously filling up your cup, so you are giving it back out to other people. Because if you just say, a lot of Christians too, mature Christians, go through what we like to call burnout, and they actually stop like receiving. I've talked to a lot of people about this, including myself, and they get so caught up in checking off boxes. Like, I'm going to serve here, 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 here in the church, and I'm going to be doing all of these things, and then I'm going to be doing all these things with my family, and I'm just going to be go, 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 go all the time, that they're not stopping and having prayer and meditation and these things with God to be getting refilled spiritually. And it's very important because this is where we get our strength from. And so you have to keep doing that. So my funny story is, it's so funny that he brought up Jesus washing feet, because it's just so funny that you said that, because I completely forgot. I didn't even tell you that I said this. Maybe I did. I have a bad memory. I'm going to have Alzheimer's when I get older. So
I think she may have it now.
So I was going this past weekend on Saturday. I don't know. Anyway, so I went to my nail lady for her to do my nails, and we were talking about, I go with my grandma and we get pedicures every like 6 to 8 weeks or something. And it's something that has become very important to my grandma, because once, life starts happening and you get older, you don't find time for everyone like you should. And my grandma just really appreciates that time her and I go and get our pedicures. So I was talking to my nail lady, and I'm like, Josh had said to me at one point, my nail lady is in Clio and my grandma lives in Clio. Yet her and I drive to Flint to get our pedicures done. And Josh had asked me one time, like, I don't understand why you didn't just have your grandma go to your nail place and have Casey, do you guys' pedicure. And what's so funny, I said this to Casey, is I'm like, I never would want you to give me a pedicure. And I know this is just really weird, but I consider you my friend, and I don't want you to have to take care of my feet, and I'm like, it's just so weird, because I think it's something, because I've been going to her for so long. I still pay her for her services, but I still consider her like my friend. So I think it's something that's in us from when, from God, that is one of the most humbling things and the most acute signs of service is to get down and start washing someone's feet.
Yep.
And I think it's just something in us, in our brains, that God has put there, that we know that's like a very servant type thing. And so I'm like, it's just weird, because I never would want you to do that. Now, would I have her give my grandma a pedicure? Yeah, because I look at that differently then. Like, she's my friend. My grandma is someone I love and adore, and I know my friend would take care of her with great care. But I would never ask her to do that for me, because I don't want her to feel, I don't know. It's just really weird. So we had a whole conversation around that.
About the washing feet.
And God and Jesus, and how
Yeah.
he did it for his disciples. And one of his disciples was like, I don't want you to do that for me. And Jesus was like, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to get past that.
Well, Christy knows I don't do feet. I don't like feet. I don't know how to feet. But when I think of her, I think I love her feet. I love her feet. Okay, I will wash her feet. I will hug her feet. I will kiss her feet. I have kissed her feet. Okay? And that means something to me. It does. It means a lot to me. And it means that I'm willing to sacrifice myself. It's not about what I like or what I want. It's about her. And we have to understand that when we get into act of service, it doesn't become about us anymore. We've been doing all of this work, the first 11 steps, to build up, to become something that God has created in such a special way that now we are going to be used by him. Not the way that we want to be used, but the way that he wants us used. And we can only do that if we work through all of this and then become ready and available at the end to say, after this major spiritual experience and working all of these steps, I'm ready, Lord. I'm ready. Use me. Put me to the test. I'm ready to do it, because I know when I do fall, I know exactly how to pick myself back up, and I know exactly what to do and where to go. What you looking for, love?
The Beatitudes.
You want to read?
Yeah, because...
Is there 2 left?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's going to read the Beatitude that goes along with these last 3 steps, and then we're going to be done.
Yeah, so for the beatitude that goes with steps 10 and 11, reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and his will for my life and to gain the power to follow his will. And then what goes with step 12 is yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and my words. So I think they're both powerful for all 3 steps.
Super powerful. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We also want to let you know that we have a private Facebook group specifically for blended families. I put the link up on in the chat. You can click on that, ask to be joined to it. It's private, so anything you put in there, the rest of your friends on your feed doesn't see it, which is super awesome. So it's because it's private. And, join us in there. We can start having some conversations about blended families. And, these 12 steps are powerful. And how you can apply it to your personal life, to your blended family, and your blended marriage literally is transformative because it comes from the Word of God. So we want to thank everybody for being here. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.